I actually published papers, international peer-reviewed papers, first author papers during my master's itself.
Gotcha.
And then I started my career in a startup company.
Yep.
And I was in R&D.
Oh, okay.
I was in R&D for 3 years, but because of a startup environment, I got to wear multiple hats.
Yep.
So I understood how research and development works. I understood how funding is brought in. I understood how the products are designed and brought to market, if done in a good way, and kind of also understood the loopholes if based on the resources, based on the expertise of the startup team. So that was a significant piece for me. That was a great value add, which actually prompted me to pursue my PhD and make sure that I also add an MBA along with that part of my startup experience.
That's great that you had that experience and you were able to sort of see that value of the other side of things, not just the R&D part, but the voice of the customer and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I published a lot of papers even before I started my PhD. So during the startup gig, I published close to a dozen papers, international papers.
Oh, wow.
It was started by scientists from Iowa State, very, very strong in science, scientific research. And we were building these first in market, products. So it was all a big puzzle. How do we bring it to market? First in the market, nobody has ever seen anything like that. Solving unique problems. How do we market this? How do we bring that to table? How do we bring that to the market? And how do we sell that in volumes?
Right.
And it was also part of, the initial IPO stage. We launched the company and brought it to public,
That's great.
Yeah.
But looking back at all the different products that you've taken through this process, what's been the longest one, or is there a typical, and what's like the longest time? I mean, have you ever done it in 6 months, gone through the whole process, or does it take years to do that?
Yeah. So ideally, in any organization, you're part of one stage gate process or another. But talking about the duration of just one stage gate, that could vary depending on how successfully planned, how well planned the whole project has been. It could, if everything runs smoothly, it could be 6 months. I think the shortest I've seen is maybe 6 months. But most of the ones that I've been involved in easily crossed 4 months.
Okay.
Because the gate exits are not always the easiest meetings to pass, because everybody needs to buy in, sign off. It's a very important meeting, and then a lot of times you just fail. You are not able to exit the gate, and of course it's not because of one person. It's the entire team effort, which everybody agrees and signs up. And we have our actionable items. We take down the actions where we need to cover the gap, identify the gap, and we come back, regather, and then make sure that we exit the gate with everybody's acceptance.
I've probably I've gone through the stage gate process many times with different products, and I think my process has been a little more loose than yours. I mean, it sounds like it's a rigid, formal process when you get to a big company that's like, no, everybody's going to be in a room.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have a voice. Like, yeah. The stuff I've done in the past has been more like the stage gate process is, it's more like, I think we're done with that one. We'll move on to this next one. Like, and it's because that's been more of a startup mentality. Yeah. Everybody's working together with a small team. So
yeah, I've had a fair share of that type of an attitude as well. Wherein a lot of companies, they don't have time. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure you've tied the loose ends together. You've gathered all the information. You've answered all the questions at a very high level. And as long as it's a work in progress, people sign off and you exit the gates and you call it good and you launch the product. But that's not ideally how it works. A lot of times, just a word to your students there is, a lot of times these meetings can be very intimidating. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of my gate reviews have been with the CEOs sitting in the conference room, and it can be very intimidating. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily threatening, but very intimidating. And you have to have everything down. You have to have all the information down, all the details down, all the numbers down. If you're not meeting the cost targets, it's a big bummer. And be sure that you're gonna have issues exiting the gate. But as long as you have your answers, your justifications, um, um, it's gonna be helpful. So never show up in a meeting unprepared, and especially gate reviews, you have to be very, very prepared.
Yeah, that's good advice, because I imagine this whole process is very expensive, and the company is relying on this to perhaps have a new product line launched and generate additional revenue from another source. So they're very keen on getting this whole process right and and completed.
Yeah. I mean, the idea phase is very, very important. This is where I think it was Steve Jobs who mentioned, right? The innovation is where you say no to 1,000 things. That's what he said. You should say, before accepting for any new product development, you have to say no to 1,000 things.
Yeah.
I mean, we understand what he means by that is that you need to have all your questions answered, and is your product meeting every other requirement of a customer or a market. And that's when pursuing along the path of a gate review makes sense, because then you have it all ironed out much before you start the gate review process.
Yep.
Which can be pretty time consuming. It's a lot of people have vested interest in that. So I think it's something to remember.
Yep.
What Steve Jobs himself said.
No, that's good. I think as engineers, like we're trained to shoot ideas down anyway, like inherently.
Yeah.
So to have something go from idea all the way to product launch, that's it's rare,
Yeah, we're all not innovation friendly. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're trained to shoot ideas down.
Trying to shoot ideas down. Yeah, absolutely.
Got any good stories for people? Like what you have a most rewarding sort of product that you've seen all the way go through this whole process, or a disaster? It's always good to hear different sort of stories from the field.
Yeah, sure. So let's do the disaster one first. So like I mentioned, knowing the cost. So there are several different goals depending on the product, depending on the problem that you're trying to solve for a particular product, and what the objectives are. So if you're not able to meet any of the objectives that were all agreed upon during the initial stage of the stage gate process, it's gonna be challenging. So one of the issues that a product manager could run into is meeting the cost targets, because that is directly related to the profitability of that particular product, meeting the expected gross margins. So if you see issues there, that's a red flag.
That seems like something that would develop further along and like deep into the process, and then you finally understand scale and all this other stuff and figure out what the cost structure could be like. Is that true? You've already spent a lot of time on it.
That's right.
Yep.
The other thing is depending on, again, the industry and the kind of products, there's a phase between 2 and 5, the engineering feasibility, wherein you consider an alpha test as well as a beta test for a product iteration, and those have to the performance of those are checked critically. How are those two versions performing? What type of failures are being experienced? And then beta phase onwards, what are the customers telling us? The beta customer, what are they telling us? What are we hearing from them? If those are pretty significant, if all of your resources and if that demands a significant change in your design, going all the way back, and you're at a point wherein it's going to be very difficult for you to kind of make a steep turn or even a pivot. Those are all issues, major red flags. But oftentimes in a gate review process, the product manager will will come across a situation wherein it's a conditional pass. The stakeholders, they just give you a conditional pass saying, okay, we're going to sign off on this provided you cover certain gaps. These documents have to be prepared. These are not done. Let's actually work on this, share this during the next week or two, and then we're good to go.
Gotcha.
So there's conditional pass. There's there's like, okay, we are going to stop. This is a hard stop. We cannot move forward with this. Mm-hmm. So kind of experienced both of those, and then the very smooth ones too, like wherein you have everything together. You have a strong market research. You have a great business case that is reviewed during the gate 1, 2, and all through, as well as the case involves as well. Wherein the engineering delivers its commitments in timely fashion, and then you have a delivery schedule. You have operations with a good plan to mass produce it, to ramp up. Everything goes well, and you pass through all the gates and you're ready to launch.
Yeah, that's got to be rewarding, right? To see like a product that you were involved with out on the market and being sold.
Yeah, and I've been part of those several times, actually, even at Rico. Coming in, somehow I end up being in very challenging times, and it's actually very good. Coming in, knowing it's been several times wherein with very less or little or minimal product knowledge, I've been challenged to become a product expert in a very quick span of time, catch the ground running, if you will, and then take the organization to a different level. That's something that I've proven over and over again.
Yeah.
And within 9 months, at Rico launched a very new version of a product, which was very, very required.